The Charleston Harbor. Boasting one of the most iconic and breathtaking views on the South Carolina coast, the port has monumental cultural importance to the town of Charleston and its residents. In addition to providing aesthetic value, the port serves as a conduit for the import and export of goods. This facilitates a shipping industry that has become critical in maintaining the economic stability of the city. The revenue generated by the port assists in funding the town of Charleston's endeavors to remain one of the most popular tourism locales in the southeast. The harbor, currently 45 feet deep, is capable of accommodating cargo ships carrying 9,000 20-foot shipping containers. However, with the expansion of the Panama Canal, which can now permit passage to ships carrying up to 13,000 containers, the town of Charleston is under pressure to expand the port in order to keep up with the ever-growing shipping industry. As the carrier ships become larger, the capacity of the Charleston port must also increase if the city wishes to maintain the industry that is so crucial to the town's economy. Cargo ships that carry more containers are heavier, which means that they sit lower in the water. In order to allow these heavier ships passage, the Charleston harbor must be deepened. The way to achieve a deeper harbor is through dredging. Dredging is defined as the removal of silt, mud, and other sediments from the floor of a body of water. This process results in a deeper channel. All harbors have feeder rivers and streams. As is the case in the Charleston port, often silt and sediments settle in the harbor after being washed away from these feeder channels. The removal of this material results in a deeper port. The practice of dredging involves a number of machinery to aid in the removal of sediment. Bucket ladders, clamshells, cutter heads, and hopper dredgers are the most common equipment used in most dredging projects. Once the sediment is removed from the channel, it must be relocated and disposed of. This is often the main environmental issue that is disputed when considering a dredging project. Improper disposal of dredged material can have detrimental environmental impacts that can alter the state of an ecosystem beyond repair. The Army Corps of Engineers has proposed a $1.6 billion plan to dredge the Charleston port to make it compatible with the larger cargo ships. The South Carolina General Assembly has pledged $300 million towards the project. The remaining portion of the budget will be generated by port revenues and funds from the federal government. This budget will be returned to South Carolina businesses in the form of hiring engineers to lead the project and construction companies that will be responsible for the dredging, building a new terminal, improving an existing wharf, and building a rail line to the new terminal. The dredging project will deepen the harbor from its current 45 feet to 52 feet. This increase in depth will give Charleston the deepest port on the east coast, able to accommodate ships carrying up to 14,000 cargo containers. This results in a more than 50% increase in the amount of cargo that the harbor can house by deepening the channel by only 7 feet. In addition to facilitating an increase in the amount of goods that can be imported to the terminal, the dredging plan will also increase the volume of exported cargo that the harbor can support. This could attract manufacturers to either relocate or build new plants in the city. When selecting a site to build new industrial infrastructure, the presence of an export terminal often influences this decision. If Charleston is able to boast the deepest harbor on the East Coast, manufacturers may wish to be nearer to the terminal in order to minimize their shipping costs. To mitigate the environmental impact of the proposed project, a dredge disposal site has been designated. The site is 4 square miles in size and is located 9 miles from the mouth of the Charleston harbor. Dredged materials have been dumped in this location since the 1980s, so the leaders of the project can be certain that this site is the most ecologically friendly location for the material to be disposed. In the past, dredging has been labeled as an environmentally detrimental activity. However, under specific circumstances and with proper mitigation and management practices, a dredging project can provide the desired economic results while minimizing the effect it has on the surrounding ecosystems and natural processes. While ocean dredging is typically less intrusive than river dredging, there are still a few key issues that must be addressed to ensure that the project is as sustainable as possible. Since dredging involves removing part of the sediment layer in a body of water, benthic species such as crabs and lobsters are often at risk. This can result in the disturbance or even destruction of their habitat. In addition to the potential destruction of habitat, dredging can alter the water quality of surrounding areas by changing the chemical composition and turbidity of the water. These changes are typically temporary and can be restored to pre-disturbance conditions shortly after the construction project is completed. In the case of the Charleston port, researchers have analyzed the populations of organisms that inhabit the area and have determined that no susceptible species reside in the site that is proposed to be dredged. Environmental effects such as these can be difficult to quantify when proposing the budget for a project since they often have an intrinsic value as opposed to a direct use value. Through research, the leaders of the Charleston Port Dredging Project have analyzed the approximate damages that could occur as the result of the plan and have internalized these costs into the overall budget. The Port Authority of Charleston has pledged $25 million towards preservation of the environment. In summary, the completion of this project would not only allow Charleston to increase the capacity of its port by 50%, but would also encourage industrial and commercial growth within the city. By adhering to proper management and mitigation practices, the ecological impact of the project could be minimal, and the compensatory environmental actions will be funded by the South Carolina Port Authority. Completion of the dredging project will ensure that Charleston is able to keep up with the ever-expanding commercial shipping industry and allow the city to remain one of the most successful ports on the East Coast.